Here we go. We're going to do this one. Adam and Eve were Nevadaans, Nevada 1924. No one ever dreamed that Nevada would dispute Shasta's claim. Now, some of you may remember I talked lightly on this subject, but there was an effort in the late 1800s. And remember, Mount Shasta was called Mount Swastika. Okay, so Mount Shasta is Mount Swastika. The origins of the name of Shasta come from this symbol, the swastika. And there was a claim that Shasta was the entrance to Shambhala and that the human race emerged from underground in California, Northern California. And they were calling it, this is what Shasta was saying in their own papers. Maybe perhaps a bit fanciful, but there has been a lot of corroboration to this, people disappearing in the caves. A famous geologist went looking for Shambhala after really interesting events were happening there. And, Shasta, like Sedona, has quite an interesting culture there. And many believe it's this very spiritual place. Anyways, old homestead of the human race. Lehman Cave abounds in hieroglyphics and Egyptian pictographs, which prove conclusively one of the cradles of civilization. Adam and Eve were Nevadans. Due to the find made near Lehman Cave in White Pine County, which has given rise to the theory that Nevada might have been the site of the Garden of Eden. Nevada is due for extensive notoriety, judging from samples of publicity that have already appeared on the coast. Nevada as the Garden of Eden. Silver State uncovers some evidence that Adam and Eve were sagebrushers. The world has been speculating for a good many ages as to just where it was that Adam and Eve settled down to housekeeping. Now, again, um, I like to think more of the Garden of Eden as, we could think of them as this, the Mormons had a lot of descriptions of this being the Garden of Eden. Even the Aztecs said that the Aztlan, the land they came from, which was supposedly near the Great Salt Lake or the Dead Sea, and shout out Karimo, who's done some fantastic videos on Utah. And as I already covered some of that in my Utah video, um, the biblical overlays are quite remarkable and hold even more true to the biblical texts than Palestine or that part of the world. And that the Aztecs called that area the land of milk and honey, and that was their true Garden of Eden. And before these areas were turned into these horrible, desolate deserts, they were full of tropical plants and the whole area was flourishing. And the whole concept of the Babylonian gardens and the rising gardens of Nineveh, and this is what the southwest of America looked like. Millions and millions of people. The terracotta canals that go on for 1,000+ miles in Arizona, they're found all over. They're found in California, they're found in Colorado, they're found in New Mexico. This whole region was inhabited by millions and millions of people who were far in advanced. And as several authors have said, and I've shown, that they said this area was flourishing while Europe was still a wilderness. Where was I? It was generally conceded that the Garden of Eden was not a landmark of the Western Hemisphere until an enterprising chamber of commerce. This is just like the California story. I would imagine this is just kind of a ploy to get people to come there, but what they're finding is what I want to cover. No one ever dreamed that the time would come when Nevada would dispute Shasta's claim and bid for fame as the site of the old homestead of the original members of the human race. Nevertheless, the Nevadans believe that they found evidence in Lehman Cave, which abounds in caverns with hieroglyphics and Egyptian pictographs on the walls, which archaeologists declare prove conclusively that Nevada was one of the cradles of civilization. Exploration and excavation in the cave are expected to disclose the ruins of ancient cities that were buried ages ago by some mighty convulsion of Mother Earth. There has been no dispute that a race of people whose history has been lost once were masters of all. They surveyed hereabouts and in Nevada, but the Silver State has never previously made claim of being the hunting ground of the ancient Egyptians or the home of Adam and Eve. If the contention of the explorers of Lehman Cave proved true, we will be forced to admit that the Garden of Eden was a far and different place from what we pictured it was, or that it has changed considerably since the serpent convinced Eve it was a perfectly all right to pick the apple and coax Adam to take a bite. Now, again, there's a lot of silliness in this article, but it's the Lehman Cave. Lehman Cave's incredible. The government ended up taking over Lehman Cave, and who was involved? The Smithsonian. They found at least 30 miles of tunnels in Lehman Cave. 30 miles, you guys. And then it goes dark. You don't find anything about it. Lehman Cave today, you're only allowed to explore, I think, a few hundred yards of the cave. And these, quote, Egyptian and the pictographs, all that's been left is the stone drawings outside. Nothing in the cave can be seen. And so the people are just like, oh, these are the drawings of the Indians from the culture. But this is the lie again. The pictographs that are left standing are outside, right? Why caves are so important is because they're subterranean and they're sheltered from the incredible events that were happening on the surface. And as I've been stating with buildings and structures, we're standing on top of several stacked cultural layers essentially, and that it gets more advanced as we go down. People, animals, fauna, flowers, everything gets larger. So inside the depths of the cave is really where the juice is at.